Good evening, students. This is Jessica Skropanich. I'm your professor for SOC 365. This is the first of 4 lectures, 1 per week, that will be presented by video in this class. So with week 1, we open talking about what is social theory. Social theory itself, to answer this, we need to look at what is worldview. We need to understand how human groups perceive the world differently from each other. So hearkening back a little bit to what you learned in previous sociology classes, let's take a look at what are worldviews, what are belief systems, and what are values. First of all, worldviews are composed of beliefs or belief systems and the social values associated with them. And a belief system is a set of interrelated beliefs dealing with a broad social condition or type of activity. For example, creationism versus evolution. Those are 2 belief systems. Evolution is one, creation is another, and then there are variations on those. Both are belief systems that attempt to explain the origin of human life. Social values. Now, think back to the different elements of culture. There are 5 elements of culture that you probably learned in SOC 100. They include symbols, language, norms, values, and then the 5th is a combination of material, culture, and technology. Now, there's a huge difference between norms and values, but for some reason, sometimes people mix them up a little bit. Values are not what is the norm, okay? Norms are norms of behavior, okay? Remember, folkways and mores, they're ones that will get you, if you break them, people will laugh at you, and then there are ones, those are folkways, and then there are mores where if you break them, you might get arrested. It's much more serious to break those particular social norms. So we're not talking about norms here. We're talking about values. And values are viscerally charged. They're usually viscerally charged. They're the way we think things should be. So think of politics and whatever your political affiliation, the way you think things should be. And of course, we're at a very emotional time right now in our history, where people, there's large political polarization in the United States, both sides, and both political parties. And you'll find that of course, these people can get very emotionally charged over politics. They always could, but I mean, we're at a period now where that seems to almost be the norm. And so the behavior is the norm to get all excited about politics, but is that the social value would be what you believe to be correct. So a value would be not necessarily what is true, but what you think ought to be true. So social values describe what a people consider to be, for instance, bad or good, or desirable and undesirable, etc. in social life. Okay, so for example, social values may be evidenced in attitudes about abortion or gay marriage. Social values are connected with belief systems. Okay, so social values concern ideas about how people should live, and that's from the perspective of the people who hold them. Okay, let's back that up for just one moment before we jump into social theories. Under social values. Under social values, a group's belief systems influence its social values. Okay, remember we just talked about worldviews, belief system, and remember belief system including these social values. So the social values describe what people consider to be good or bad, and a group's belief systems influence those social values. So all societies have belief systems. Okay, they may be different between society to society, but but all of them have belief systems and they have social values. But all members of a society do not always stand in agreement in their worldviews, as we can certainly see in the polarization, the political polarization to which I referred, that is occurring in the United States very markedly this decade. Every society and culture, in every society and culture, there are dominant worldviews and alternate worldviews. So it's, you know, when it would be kind of an eerie thing when everybody agrees. You know, it's just, there's got to be some room for, you know, there's going to be room for variation when you look at what people believe. So worldviews, though, in general, are learned through socialization and social interaction. Remember back to SOC 100, socialization is the process by which we learn to be members of our society. Worldviews are constantly being reinforced by the culture of the societies in which we live and in the communities in which we live, you know, the subcultures, throughout our lives. We're unconsciously and critically, we kind of unconsciously and uncritically take our worldview for granted. We believe it's kind of the way things are. And over time, worldviews can change. And usually this is a very slow process. I'll give you a dramatic example. Today, slavery in the U.S. is, of course, illegal, and it is unthinkable that it would ever be legalized again. This wasn't always so. And yeah, so when we talk about worldviews, we're talking about something that, unless there's like, sometimes when there's like a crisis, people are, you know, a country is attacked or a society is attacked, something changes very quickly. Usually worldviews change very slowly, okay, unless there is some kind of big incident, okay? And so how do we understand these worldviews? Well, science tests our worldviews. And one way is with social theory. Okay, now we get to how do we define social theories. Social theories are generalizations about real, quote unquote, social interactions and the everyday practices of social life. Okay, and theories are refined over time. Okay, scientific and intellectual breakthroughs change theories from their classical versions to their modern ones. And this class is classical social theory, but you're looking at kind of what is at the root, where the roots of the theories that that spawned modern contemporary social theory. So you know, this is kind of the root of the tree. And then as these theories developed over time, people branched out in different directions. And so if you've taken, I hope you're taking this before you take contemporary social theory, but not necessarily. Yeah, there's no reason to think that they have to go in one order. But for me, it was helpful to take this course first way back when I was in school, because it showed me the roots. And then when you get into contemporary social theory, there are so many theories, and it's because bunches of them branched off. You have so many theories that developed out of conflict theory and out of structural functional theory, and so you have these huge branchings off of these theories, the contemporary theories that share a similar root. So why do we study social theory? Why do you have to take this class? Well, hopefully it's partly because you're interested. I mean, if you're a sociology major, I'm hoping that you're here because you love it. To me, it's fascinating. It really is, because I love looking at the approaches. This is almost the picture on the box of the puzzle, a guide that helps me to put the puzzle together. But there are multiple boxes for each problem. That's the thing, multiple pictures that tell you how to put the puzzle together. So just like when you get a puzzle in a box. But first of all, we must understand the intellectual, social, and historical underpinnings of sociology as a discipline. You need to know where theories come from, the modern social theory comes from, so that you can better understand why it is the way it is and where it can go. And maybe we need to re-examine some elements of this theory or that theory. Sometimes they came out of some social values themselves that have since been questioned and changed dramatically. Okay, so first of all, we want to make sure we understand the intellectual, social, and historical underpinnings of sociology as a discipline. Also, we should trace back the history of ideas to see where ideas originate, and that does relate back to number one. So we're talking about more than just the discipline of sociology. We're talking about theories that affected other branches of science, and other branches of science affected these theories as well. It got into pop culture, and also, so where do these ideas originate? And who originated them? What was, because they're human. The catch is that you yourself are your own guinea pig. You yourself are both the subject and the scientist in sociology. And remaining objective is, of course, extremely important, but as objective as we certainly can get. And that's one of the reasons we work in groups and we critique each other's concepts and ideas. But knowing, for instance, that like Auguste Comte, who's the father of sociology, the guy who dragged this from scientific study from the natural world and said you can apply that to human beings. Understanding that he grew up in the aftermath of the French Revolution, what he was seeing helps hopefully you and other sociologists understand how he came to the conclusions he came, how he developed his social theories. Also, we need to better understand the social world around us to develop intellectual breadth. You don't have to buy every theory that you read. You don't have to choose either. Okay? You can basically what you're doing is looking at different facets of a stone or sides of a box. You don't have a box until you have 6 sides. Okay? Or at least 5 sides if it's an open box. But you're talking about when you really put different theories together and different perspectives together, that's when you get a solid picture of social theory, or excuse me, of social life. By putting those theories together, they see the same social phenomenon in different through different glasses. And when you put them together, that's when you really see what is going on. So examining social theories, some of which, in their origins, we might find, even just a little bit off or a lot off, depending on what you're looking at. You might want to, step back and look at it just to understand, where, how much perspective is out there, how many different ways you can look at the same thing. So you're not being asked to take a side. You're being asked to look at multiple perspectives and to gain knowledge from that. Okay, if you have any questions, please do go to the virtual office and post your questions. But this concludes the lecture for week 1. Thank you so much for coming.